Ready to rumble?
I'm ready.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Reptile Rendezvous. I'm your host, Alex and All Her Animals, and today we have a really cool guest joining us. I'm still ill and my glasses are steaming up. I have a little bit of a fever still, just bear with me. Our guest today, someone who's all about bringing the wonders of nature into our everyday lives. Josh is a well known figure in the world of bioactive setups and natural habitats. He's not just a hobbyist, but he's a passionate advocate for creating sustainable ecosystems, especially for reptiles and amphibians. So, if you've ever thought about how to make your pets' environments more enriching and natural, then Josh is your dude. So, please give a welcome to Josh, aka the Bio Dude.
I really appreciate you having me on your show.
Should we just start by you giving us a quick rundown?
Yeah, so who am I? My name is Josh Halter. I am originally from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, Amish country. I moved down to Texas about 9 years ago. Start BioDude. I started this January 1, 2017, but I was an entrepreneur before that. I owned a small business with my brother where we focused on, breeding dart frogs and stuff. And I enjoyed that aspect, but I wanted that put short that venture was a failure. So I took that failure and put all my dice into what I have now, which is BioDude. I've been keeping reptiles and amphibians for well over 20 years. I could argue 25 years, depending what you count is actually happening. Um, I worked with a lot of different types of animals. I bred many different types of tree frogs, poison dart frogs. I've worked with many different types of pythons. I bred Brettles pythons, children's pythons. But mainly amphibians have always been my soft spot. But, with how I tailored my business, I'm not really a live animal type of guy with what I sell to everybody. I sell dirt and dirt accessories. And that is what Biodo does. I'm really proud to be where we are. What led me to do what I want to do or do what BioDude is doing? I'll answer this quite honestly. Number one was I saw a huge opening in a market that not a single person was capitalizing on for years. So there's some strong money driven there. Um, B, to change the way that people perceive reptiles and amphibians. And now I'm not talking about perception of, oh, they're gross. I'm talking about perception of what
Mm,
actually there is. It's a big
yeah.
misconception of what they actually need to a degree. Things have gotten a lot better in the past eight
Mm,
years. But just generally speaking, you know, they're wild animals. Most people do not cage them like wild animals. They don't provide a nurturing environment. They don't provide things to make them feel at home. The whole point of keeping reptiles is to see what makes them so amazing as wild animals. They're neat instinctual niches, things they do for enrichment, X, Y, and Z. You don't
yeah.
keep them correctly, you don't get any of those things. So it kind of just defeats the purpose, so to speak. But it's also about just pushing a higher standard of care because for the longest time, coconut fiber, coconut husk was really, or shaved down Douglas fir bark, which arguably it's the exact same. Now you have ZoomEd, Exoterra, Josh, there's all these other companies doing what I'm doing, which is great. That was our whole mission, right? From starting the dude was to make sure that it becomes a standard of care. I like to say that we had a role with that. Won't take full responsibility for that, no way. But I like to say that we were an integral part to the growth of the community to make that change that's been needed. And it's a change that's still occurring today. What led me to become was my need and want to make more money, the need to want to change the hobby. And what drives everybody that works for the dude now is that final sentence of continually to push through the high standard of care. There's a lot of other companies that do what we do now, which is great. And I'm all about that. I always like to take the stance like we're the Cadillacs. We're not the Kias, we're not the Toyota. That's the blueprint that I've followed since inception. Price point, type of product,
Yeah.
quality of products, transparency with products as much as I can be, all those things. So, um, you know, that's a good way to answer that question. Is I never wanted to be like I have a YouTube channel. Everyone knows this. I think it's like 80 or 90,000 subscribers. I can't even tell you how many subscribers I have because I never wanted to be a YouTuber whatsoever. I am very shy and typically dislike 95% of people. That's why I always worked with animals. But I did YouTube to
I love
have people
animals.
understand what we're talking about. Have people visually, because I'm a visual learner, right? So like that's
Yeah, I'm the
like
same. Yeah.
literally built it like I needed to learn. So if I was going to learn, how would I need to learn how to do this? And then when I created that entry Biodude ecosystem, that's kind of what we did for YouTube. So like to become the bioactive dude is kind of crazy for me because like that was never mentioned, even though the branding and kind of goes with it. But enable to start something new, create a trend, or to create change, the brand has to be
Mm,
adaptable. The brand
yeah.
has to be relatable. The brand has to be understood. And I think all of those pieces kind of came into play for us. So I'm really grateful.
Talking about the misconceptions about sort of animal care standards, there's also misconceptions with or misunderstood in their behaviors as well. Thinking that bearded dragons don't climb or snakes don't climb, and they're not that's not true at all. You can't understand, you can't get their enrichment correct if you don't have the information on all sides of it.
100%.
I really like what you do, and we sort of like cross like that, I guess, because it's although I'm helping people learn all different kinds of things. That's what drives us. It's to look after the animals and to help people understand them better and learn ourselves. Like I'm learning so much just by doing these podcasts, and I've only been doing it about a
Sure.
month, but I've learned so much already, and
Yeah.
it's really it's good fun. It's good, and I'm not very good with plants and things, but at the moment it seems to be okay. And they haven't died yet, the plants that I've got in there and the moss. So
Woo! Yeah. How
woo.
I how I look at plants is I do I call it the Doug Halter test. So Doug Halter is my father. My father can kill a pothos plant. You're aware of what a pothos plant is. They're virtually
Yeah.
indestructible. You can put them in a dark closet months and they'll still be alive. But a lot of times when I first started, I would literally send my dad a whole bunch of different mini terrarium plants. And I'll be like, "Can you keep this alive?" I get a response back a month
Ah.
later, "Hey, still growing, still going strong. Guess what? This plant's going on my website." Literally, like when you look at us, we ain't the fancy smancy plant people. We won't be that business that right now that's selling a $60 cutting or margravias. That ain't us. We like
Mm.
to have plants that if you have a black thumb, it doesn't matter. You can still do it. And that was another thing that I like made sure that when I started the dude, that again, accessibility with how easily can the consumer execute. And if you send a guy who just bought his 10-year-old a bearded dragon, and you're sending them this crazy agave that needs to have a specific nitrogen content in the soil or needs to have these
Mm.
crazy things, chances are dad's
Yeah.
not going to be successful. And then dad's going to be really turned off. And then dad's not going to want to put any more money into the investment that he put into. So, like, it also stems from like, and like try to hope everybody takes this approach. Like, if you're doing what we're doing, you just want to make sure that you're not creating a devaluement on the movement. And when I say devaluement on the movement, it's creating a kit and you're putting a whole bunch of crazy plants in there that a lady has no idea what the heck she's doing and she gets this and kills everything. Chances are
That's
she's
what
going to
I
yeah, and that's kind of something we're going through right now. We have some people, that try to say, "Hey, here's a bromeliad for a ball python," and I'm like, "Well, that's stupid because that's not going to work." So,
Mm.
it's little things like that that we try to again make it as easy as possible with having a high level of positive turnaround with the actual usage of the products because again at the end of the day, first impressions are everything when it comes to trying something new. And if something is too hard or if something just doesn't work out in the way that they were originally planning on it, chances are they're not putting their money back into this industry or community, and that hurts everybody, right? That doesn't just hurt
Yeah.
me, that every single person touching the community. So like it's no different than when you're breeding animals and you're messing up lineages or messing up localities. You don't do it. They're bugaboos because it devalues what other people are doing. So it's just really important that, like, for us, that was one of our backbones, is making sure that, that we are following through on what we say we will follow through on, and not leave people scratching their heads like, what the heck am I supposed to do
I'm just kind of mad that I can't get the stuff here.
on it? I just, once we're out of this building, I just gotta buy a machine that pasteurizes my dirt. Once I can pasteurize my substrate, we'll be everywhere. I just have to do it
Yeah,
and deal with the
I'm looking
infrastructure
forward to it.
that I've
Yeah.
just been not wanting to do it, but I got it.
Yeah,
So,
because it's a
uh,
lot of work. It's one of those that you really wanna do,
uh,
but also,
yeah,
it's gonna be worth it, but
yeah,
still just so much so
yeah.
much work. With bioactive enclosures, why are they good for reptiles and other animals like amphibians?
Well, it kind of goes back to what I said before. So the biggest thing to remember is they're all wild critters, right? Like even the bearded dragon that is mass produced here in the United, leopard geckos, crested geckos, they still have those wild instinctual niches, right?
Yeah,
Beardies love to forage. So, like with Hercules' habitat at my house, there's a hibiscus tree in there, there's rosemary, there's oregano, there's basil. The rosemary and hibiscus and basil are picked clean in 2 weeks. We let the hibiscus regrow, put it on the windowsill, pull it back out, put it back in. We just replace the hibiscus and the oregano. Rosemary just kind of
mm,
takes. And the reason I'm saying all of these things is because in the wild, these critters will just forage, right? They will come across a
yeah,
plant, walk away, go back to basket.
mhm,
A lot of animals love to burrow. So let's take what is a unique niche? Let's look. Okay, it's a kind of out of the box. Let's look at a sidewinder. Okay, you and I both know that sidewinders kind of like to bury their entire bodies in the sand, leaving only their
yeah,
eyes with their horns exposed. Right now, what if you put them in a habitat that didn't have sand or dirt in it? How do you think
they
that
would be
critter would
yeah,
feel? That critter would be stressed. Critter would be scared. Critter would be like, "Well, I can't do what I want to do, so I'll eventually get anorexic, or if my parameters aren't right, X, Y, and Z." So, like when it comes to reptiles, obviously your heating and lighting are your space, all that. It's all important. But to me, husbandry comes down to three important factors: shedding, respiration, and hydration. Respiration comes to airflow. How well is your humidity? How well can your animal breathe in your habitat? How well does the air cycle in your habitat? That also goes into your soil health, aerating top to the bottom. We're talking about hydration. Are there opportunity zones in the habitat? For example, if you have an amphibian, you should probably have bromeliads in there depending on the species, because the axles hold water. That water
mm,
empties and fills with fresh water as you missed, right? That is an opportunity zone for soaking. It's an opportunity zone for hiding. It's an opportunity zone for drinking. Okay. That's separate from the water bowl, separate from other things. We all know how important it is for your animals to stay hydrated. Okay. That also goes
mm,
with shed. Okay. This is the next thing. Snakes don't shed appropriately. They get eye caps. That can really
yeah,
mess them up. Poor shedding in lizards can cause toes to fall off, right?
and
There's a
leopard
lot of other
geckos
things
and
that
yeah,
bad shedding means. Bad shedding means bad husbandry a lot of times. Bad husbandry means your temperature's not right, your humidity's not right. So when you have a bioactive habitat, it really makes your life easier. It allows you to maintain your humidity a little bit better because your substrate, as long as it's right, made right, is putting moisture back into the air. You design it right to put moisture back out at specific times instead of all the time, versus having a
mm,
substrate that allows air to pass from point A to point B. There are many animals that need to burrow. Okay. So let's talk about sidewinder. Let's talk about my blue tongue skink. Okay. Dan has a whole network, or my ocellated skinks. They have a whole network of underground burrows and tunnels. Like have an intricate system in their habitat.
cool,
If your soil doesn't retain tunnels and burrows, they can't do that. You can't
mm,
nourish their instinctual niches. So it comes down to keeping the animal enriched. It comes down to making your husbandry easier. It comes to providing the highest quality care that you can. And then it also comes down to you, quite frankly, doing your due diligence as a keeper. Nothing grinds my gears more. You know, we can deal with, like, I deal with people selling iguanas to 10-year-olds, Nile monitors. I was at the show a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Dude was selling Nile monitors in a 10-gallon tank with a Home Depot bulb for $50, including the lizard. I immediately went up to the show
Wow.
promoter and was like, these are the type of vendors
That's
that get our industry banned. And the
yeah.
vendors around the show promoters around here are really, really good about that. At Tinley, U.S. Fish and Wildlife at the beginning of the show went and confiscated like 25 tortoises before the show even started. So, like, I'm going on a
Wow.
tangent, but what I'm getting at
No.
is it just goes back to that initial mantra that I talked about before.
Yeah.
Reptiles are not a they're not a cheap hobby. They should never ever
No.
ever be a cheap hobby. And and to me, that speaks volumes because we have people that come in here and want to buy a bearded dragon from us and put it into 10-gallon and not buy UVB. Guess what? We don't sell that
Yeah.
bearded dragon to that person. We send them elsewhere. And we
Yeah.
give them the necessary information that they need. We give them a care sheet. We give them our website. And then that person goes and leaves us a 1 star on Yelp, which is fine. That's just the way it is. I could care less about those people because they're not going to listen to what we have to say to provide the right standard of care. Then they can deal with the repercussions of their actions when their animal dies in a couple months. At the end of the day, it's not just good for reptiles and other animals. It's also good for nurturing the human animal bond. I know that
Yeah.
sounds crazy, but dogs and cats, you get that human animal bond. I get that with a lot of my animals here, a lot of my reptiles. Like
Yeah.
I know for a fact my Cubans, my blue tongue skink, Mrs. Smithers, like a lot of these animals, like I'm not gonna argue they know me, but I feel like they have a sense of kind of who I am or what I'm doing because I see Mr. Smithers bite other people. He doesn't ever, but he doesn't bite me. Maybe that's just how I
Mm.
approach my handling X, Y, and Z. But so I went off on a couple tangents there. It's just to me there is
It's
no other
okay.
way unless if your animal is immunocompromised, you don't put them on bioactive. You have to wait until they're healthy because you
Yeah.
have an immunocompromised animal eat a bunch of dirt. Well, there's a chance they could die of impaction because their bodies aren't functioning correctly. And that was another roadblock we kept running into. Again, was starting to do was, well, my animal's going to get impacted. You're a piece. I've been called a piece of, I've been called every name in the book by people, saying
Mm.
you're a product that's going to kill these animals. And my response was, well, then you should probably do your due diligence on Coco Choir because it kills like 300,000 to 400,000 Pac-Man frogs a year. Have fun.
My turn for tangents now. They're one of those animals that it's just like people see them being so like misrepresented on the internet. So they'll see them like they're a burrowing species. They need like good, healthy soil, and they will just pretend to be a potato most of the time. But then
Yes.
people see them online in the wrong context. So like stacked on top of each other or with next to each other, and it's like no, they need to be no. And then they have false expectations of them because they'll be burrowing most of the time and they expect them to be not like that at all, and
Yeah.
they're just rocks with mouths. When people hear that, they probably think it's probably not like that bad, but they really are. They really are, and
Yeah.
it's one of those
Well,
things
it's
that's
it's also because in the wild where they're sitting, the soil drains, soil aerates, right? So like when they pee, they just sit there. And if they're in a soil that's super hydrophobic, excuse me, they'll just absorb and absorb and absorb. It's gonna absorb all that urine. When it absorbs all that urine, it gets super, super acidic. Super acidic. Then your Pac-Man frog absorbs that into their skin through osmosis, right? From their bodies. What that's going to do is start throwing off their osmotic pressures in their body. I think I'm getting this right.
it.
Which then they start getting septic. Once they start getting septic, they have trouble shedding because they shed and eat their skin pretty much every day. Once they can't properly shed and eat their skin, their bodies just start shutting down and then they die.
Yeah. I love frogs. I have frog stuff everywhere at home. I've got like my welcome mat says welcome to Alex's pad with a picture of a frog. And
Nice.
my
Nice.
shower mat is a cowboy frog. Got my toiletry bags over there because I just had a shower before this and it says just a girl who loves frogs or something stupid on it. And yeah,
Nice.
I love lizards and everything else, but I think frogs get the most attention for some reason. But yeah, I had
They're
like
awesome.
9 Pacman.
They are
They are.
they're neat little critters.
They are, and they're so like different ones are so different. And then they can be so hardy, but then they can also be so easy to kill at the same time. It's really
Yes.
interesting
Yes,
how
they are.
much like how yeah, like you'll see something really random like that will kill it off straight away, but then they'll go through something really terrible and it won't kill them. And it's like, what? It's just a lot of people they just see frogs and they're just like, oh, frogs. And I'm like, I respect your opinion. Everyone's allowed their
I
opinion,
don't
but I
respect
don't
your
get how
just
can
kidding.
you look at a how could you look at a frog and not think that that's cute? Like, well, people like the milk frogs and the white's true frogs and all the cute ones. And then oh, hang on, there's someone just yeah, no, I'm just recording a podcast episode.
Sorry.
I've had all sorts of frogs and lots of experience with different kinds of animals. And I've got 2 cane toads, and I've got a stowaway toad that was found at the airport in someone's luggage.
Nice.
So
Yeah,
just
the
yeah,
cane
just
toads are
random.
best in like every other country because they destroy
Yeah,
everything.
you all my Australian friends are like, "We hate cane toads." And I was like, "We're the ones that introduced them. It's not the cane toads' fault. We're the ones like it's the farmers. Blame the farmers." They're just living their lives. But yeah, they're so gorgeous. Like their eyes, I could get lost in their eyes. I swear, I could just like stare into them for so long, and they're just so big and chunky and
Yeah.
gorgeous.
I had a Rococo toad for 15 years. Her name was Java. She was the size of a dinner plate. I used to give her hamsters. I
Yeah,
know I'm a
they
terrible person.
can get.
Yeah, that's the pet store with these dwarf Russian hamsters because people would buy them and they were always really, really mean. So they buy them for their little kids, and then I would go in there and they would put the second chance because they were like 2.
Oh,
I mean, I was up front. I was like, I'm gonna give these to my toad, and they're like, okay. So that's yeah, young Josh.
poor babies.
Yeah, fun
Oh,
stuff.
everyone makes mistakes. You don't look like you regret it though. A little bit.
I mean, those little dudes holes in my hands. So
Here's doggy. Are you gonna sit with me now? I don't know how she's still functioning because we went for a very long walk in the woods and she was playing with her new friend.
nice.
Frogs and toads and lizards and yeah, just like Australia just having white tree frogs just but then there's loads of states in America that have like the grey tree frogs, so
We do.
that are
Down here we
just
have gray,
yeah.
gray, green, squirrels. We have spring peepers. We have
Oh, I love the peepers.
frogs, bullfrogs.
I
We have
love a
some native.
bullfrog as well. Yeah,
Yeah, they're loud. I
they
have one
are.
in my pond that's been living there for a while in my backyard. I can hear him right in my freaking bedroom every damn night.
I
So
see.
I
I
like
would love
him.
it. I'd never.
He helps control the pests, but damn, he's sorry, darn, he is very loud. I'm sorry, I keep swearing. I
They
gotta
are.
stop. Okay.
That's okay. So, how are bioactive enclosures good for animal enrichment? I know we kind of touched upon it, but
Yeah, a little bit. So besides planting like healthy edibles, allowing for burrowing and things like that, it also allows them to, if they're like group animals, to be able to participate in some of the things that they like to do. So I'll use my ocellated skinks as an example. In their habitat, I have 4.5 to 5 inches of Sahara in there. And there's a group of 8. I've had this group of 8 for 9 or 10 years. And they've been breeding, the live bearers, and they give me about 20 to 30 babies a year, maybe a little bit more.
mm,
And I have a hot dog female in there. She is much bigger than any of the other critters that live in there. Don't know how she got so big, but she is the hot dog. And within that habitat, like I said, there is an entire network of tunnels. They're about as thick as my pinky, and there is about 10 to 12 different entrance and exits throughout the entire habitat. And
That's so
typically,
cool.
as the sun's going down, so as we start dimming all the lights to turn everything off, being diurnal, they migrate in one by one. They migrate into their den, right? Or into those little tunnels. And then in
Mm.
the morning, we have the lights kick on around 6:45, 7:45. It depends the time of year as we try to kick it with what's happening outside. And
Yeah.
typically, as the sun's coming up, out of the furthest hole in the front, you'll see Miss Hot Dog put the top of her head out of the hole. She does literally a complete 360 and looks around the whole habitat for like 5, 10 minutes. And then she waddles her little fat butt out of there. And then they all come out one by one by one by one. I don't see them come out of any other hole. I don't see them come out of a different order than fat female. So what that tells me is that a hierarchy was created within that habitat, which was always going to happen when you're keeping groups of animals. But what it also does, it also allows them to be able to maintain that hierarchy by creating different vision zones. So
Yeah.
different your habitat with density can help facilitate that. And I can make the same argument with my emeralds. They all sleep together in the same cork tube. Gator goes in first, all the other ones follow. Gator comes out first, all the other ones follow. But Gator also is very, very, during the day, that is his tube. Any other critter goes on that tube, gets them. And that includes all the
Mm.
emeralds. So while some people may not like that, then in the wild, that's what they're going to do. When they form their little
Yeah.
troop or group, there's always going to be the head honcho that calls all the shots. And a lot of times, if you don't build your tank correctly to their standards, that is still a type of enrichment. Enrichment doesn't always mean giving a critter something extra. Enrichment also means
Yeah.
just providing them the foundation to live the way in the wild that they would live. Right. I
Mm.
lump both those things together, which is a really, really big deal. Um,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, guys, the spread tails and isopods that you put in there, if you put big isopods in there, like dairy cows, zebras, gabers, lavis, whatever, dude, they are some if they are carnivores, like some of my bearded dragon at home, man. I have to reseed his habitat with 500 powders every 6 months because
Wow.
he systematically, as they come out of the rocks, because I have a whole bunch of limestone in there as his basking
Yeah.
spots and limestone. That calcium, as water hits it, puts that calcium into the dirt. Calcium benefits the dirt, benefits the bugs. Cycle continues, right? But I'll literally lift up a rock, and thousands of them go all over the place. And the moment I do that, his fat bud is running all
Yeah,
over
it's
that
just like,
rock.
ah!
So even when you're not in that habitat, you're not there, they will still actively hunt those. So just like I was talking about the healthy edibles, it's the same thing, guys. It's just providing a little bit of extra in their habitat so that way they're not so bored. Like here's an example. Back here's my female Aki.
I
This
can
is a
just see in the I'm looking in the corner.
it's a 60 by 24 by 24. This cage is way too tiny for her. I only have 4 inches of dirt in here, but my male, I put the male in her habitat to breed and he almost killed her. So we had to put
Mm.
on some bait and all this other stuff. So she's been living in here for 6 months because she almost freaking died. So, now, so when she's out of there, she'll be good. But I've been like, I have a ton of tubes in there. I have a whole bunch of other stuff for her to do. But she is constantly digging to the very bottom of that habitat because the habitat that she was used to living in had 14 inches of dirt in there. And they had a
Wow.
very,
Yeah.
very, very extensive network of tunnels in that, like the ocellated did. But the
Mm.
male is about 4.5 inches, 150 grams more than her. That was about 4 months ago. So hopefully she will be of the same gram weight because we're going to try again. And if we notice that aggressive behavior, then we're going to have to find a different male because he's just too big and too nasty with a lot of these girls I've tried. But I
Yeah.
noticed an immediate difference in her behavior putting her in here. She doesn't stand and bask near as long. She's constantly digging to the very bottom, coming back up, going to another spot and digging, looking for deeper dirt. So, like, I already can tell, I was like, this is not ideal for her. This is not going to work long term. But to get us through, to get her healthy and get her scars fixed up and have her put on the weight by giving her some pinkies and silks and blue worms and all that other stuff every single week, we're slowly getting
Mm.
her to the point for hopefully a reintroduction of the male into this habitat. They breed, and then we put the male in here and put the female back out on the floor and the habitat with 12 inches of dirt. So that's kind of what we're playing with right now. But again, it all goes back to the foundation, right? Of
Yeah.
sure that you hit all those check marks. So.
I want to know more about tunnels. Are there any risks with tunnels?
Yeah, so like typically you want to use clay or granite, or you can use sand, but sand after a while lose its. I'm not gonna say lose its efficacy because that's simply not true, but it also comes down to moisture content. So, like, yeah, dude, I have seen complete dens. How do I say this? I can't say that nicely. I have seen other people provide other people a substrate that retain tunnels and burrows, and then it goes and collapses on their fat tail gecko, and they find their fat tail gecko dead under 10 inches of dirt. I've seen that happen. It all comes down to the structural integrity of your substrate. The general rule of thumb, if you're making your own, you get a 5-gallon bucket. You fill that 5-gallon bucket all the way up, and you get that substrate to be the desired moisture level that you want it to be. So the way that substrate is going to be in your tank, that's the what you want to try. And if it can retain all tunnels and burrows, you better be able to take your 3 fingers and just go like this all the way to the bottom to create a hole that's about this big. And from the top to the bottom, that tube like hole that you made should stay compacted. And then you're going to go down halfway. You're going to go down halfway, and then you're going to go to the side going like across. Okay? So you're going to go this way and then this way. Then you walk away. You come back the next day and your stuff retained everything, you're good to go. But if it didn't and it collapsed, you need to do a little bit more work on your ratios for more retention when it comes to the actual integrity of the substrate. That makes sense.
I thought it was important to just to say, because I didn't want anyone listening going, "Oh, I'd like to try and make something that I can make into a tunnel." And I don't know enough about it to be able to give advice. So I thought if we just touched
Yeah,
upon that, like what to look
the
for
the biggest
and that kind of
advice
thing. So
Yeah, the biggest advice is they need to test it before they use it. Another good thing to keep in mind is if your soil is over wet and saturated, it will always hold a tunnel and burrow. Always. It doesn't matter if it's bad soil, it doesn't matter if it's good soil. What it matters is
mm,
what does it do when it dries and how structurally sound is it after it dries. Coconut fiber is a good example of this. You can wet coconut fiber and create your own little networks of tunnels, but the moment that stuff dries, it turns to dust. And then it just goes
yeah. Do you have any tips for keeping it moisturized and nice and wet without
misting.
drying out too quickly?
Misting plants, live plants, and their root systems play a very, very valuable role with the overall long term health and structural integrity of your soil. I know structural integrity of your dirt sounds like a really weird thing to say, but not only is your dirt the most alive thing in your tank, it also needs to make sure that we're able to make sure that when the moisture level is right, it's doing what it is. And the only way to do that is by misting or watering. And that's going to come down to you and what you're keeping and utilizing the proper tools to know what your parameters are. What are you using? Use a humidity probe, use a moisture detector for your soil, things like that. That makes sense.
So yeah, I'm just making sure that dog isn't chewing anything. There's a mirror just there, so I'm looking in the mirror and I think she's just rolling. She's just oh no, now she's trying to chew the bedding. I was drying my hair earlier and she's going like that at the hair dryer and I was like, that would look really funny in slow motion. So I put a slow-mo video. I made it into a slow-mo video and it's so funny.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's the US and Canada that you sell to at the moment, or is it
Yeah,
just the US or
I
is
don't
it
sell to Canada. I have a
okay?
guy who resells for me, Reptiles R Us in Canada. But he's not distributor level yet, but I hope he gets to that point. I'm mainly
Yeah.
contiguous 48 now. And that's how we're going. But I've had multiple people. I've had distributors from Japan reach out to me. I've had distributors from UK. You know, Central approached us many times. Chewy approached me many times. Along with a lot of other opportunities. We just, if I'm going to pull the trigger on something like that, I want to make sure I do it right.
So what kind of things do you sell at the moment that is available in the US?
Hmm. So besides the substrate we manufacture, we also sell like some diets that I make. So like bee pollen product,
Bee pollen is
insect gut,
so good.
yeah, insect gut load, springtail food, omnivore topper. That is a whole bunch of different organic dried flowers. So if you have picky herbivores, especially uromastics, beardies, blue tongue, sprinkle some of that on their food. It has red, oranges, purple in there. It really draws them to the food. Mix a little bit of pollen power in there, you'll get them to eat anything. Um, so the diets, I manufacture my own lights, LEDs and normal T5 lights. We started manufacturing our own fixtures, which we'll be having by November. We sell wood, rocks, live plants. Easy to keep live plants. I'm not a high end plant hustler selling cutting for $80. That ain't me. Um, and then of course we also sell like biodegradables, so like leaves and moss and stuff like that. A lot of the stuff that I sell, like I've invented. Um, you know, like almost everything that BioDude is, to get it from where it is to now, product wise, it's almost all me, with the exception of there's a couple other brands I carry. Like I resell Arcadia products. I do like
Big
Arcadia
up
products.
Arcadia.
I have a
Yeah.
high respect for them and Rich at Reptile
Mm,
Basics. We manufacture PVC habitats with cages. We've collaborated with them the past 6 years, and they've been amazing. They're smaller potatoes compared to some of your other PVC manufacturers, but I'd rather have it that way any day of the week because I know I'm
yeah.
getting and a Cadillac, not a
Mm.
not a Kia. Nothing wrong with Kias, guys. That's not what I'm saying. That's the way I take my brand.
Yeah.
Um, and that's kind of what I'm doing right now. It's very hard to have a business in the United States right now, to be profitable because there's a lot wrong with the way things go right now. So where we've had to eliminate a lot of third party products, so like Exoterra products, Zoomed products, all these products that are on Amazon and companies that don't have control of their map. We've
Mm,
said goodbye to those because to me, I'm not the type of guy to buy something for $6 and sell it for 6.50. I
mm.
won't do that. I won't ever do that. That is not worth my time. And we've really changed a lot with the type of products we're selling following that mantra these past year and a half. And it's really helped us, be more concise in what we're selling, have a more profitable bottom line, as well as to grow. Because
Yeah.
right now, you got to be really aggressive with your actions and with the decisions that you make if you want to continue to survive in the climate right now.
Especially, yeah, after the last 2, hurricanes that happened, that was crazy. Just
Yeah,
crazy.
Florida got completely destroyed. We haven't got a bad one yet this year. We had a hailstorm come through and destroy the roof of my building, so I had to put a new roof on my building. That
Wow.
really sucked. That was like $55,000 that I had to pay for. That
Ooh.
as a
Yeah.
kick in the nuts
Ouch.
over and over again. Yeah, and the insurance was like, yeah, you have 35 years depreciation on this roof, Mr. Halter. We're not touching it. I was like, insurance is
Why
such a
yeah,
scam. Insurance is
what is the
such
point?
don't get me started on the government and on insurance. But at the end of the day, we were still able to get it done. We were able to, get it pretty much paid off. It'll be done. It'll be paid off in December. So I'm really blessed to be where we are. It's just, again, is right now you got to be. We're prepping as much as we can for hurricane season. I've been trying to get a Generac installed in this building for months, months, and we just can't find a company to come out and actually do it because they're
Mm.
8, 9 months behind. So, we're just kind of taking those steps.
If someone's thinking of starting their own sort of or going on their own bioactive enclosure journey, what would you recommend for them, and places to start and things to consider,
Yeah.
and that kind of thing?
Well, the first thing to consider is your animal, and their in your due diligence, and then understanding your budget with said animal. That is something most people fail to do. Is understanding
Mm.
that, hey, it costs a lot of money to get this bearded dragon set up. You're going to be spending $100 in lighting at minimum. You're going to be spending 300 on a cage for an adult at minimum. I
So
keep
many
going.
people don't
Yeah,
realize. Mm.
exactly. And then it's also asking them what their needs are. So when I approach anything, when I approach sales, just in general, I'm never looking at a person of like, oh, I need this. I'm like, okay, here you go. It's very similar to the guy from Wolf on Wall Street. The name is leaving me. He goes, sell me this pen. The whole point of that
Oh
is
yeah, yeah.
he does not want you to sell him this pen. What he wants to do is he wants you to understand what his need is for the pen. And when you are looking at that sentence, we're just thinking about the bioactive enclosure journey to start. I look at it as, okay, so what are their needs? Are they looking to have a more self-sustaining environment? Or are they looking to go a more basic route and change everything out, go naturalistic or X, Y, and Z? Why how much space do they have? What do
It's a
they
very broad
son?
question, yeah.
Exactly. Is it for their son? Is it for their daughter? Okay. What are they hoping that their kid gets out of it? Are they hoping to learn how to take care of it? Or are they hoping just for a bonding experience? All of these things play a major role in how I'm going to approach this aspect of keeping with those people. Once I understand what their needs are and what their values are as a consumer, then
Yeah.
that's when we'll start tailoring our response to what it is that they need that's going to best fit their needs. So that not only A, we get that conversion because I'm a businessman, right? But B, we're setting them up the best possible way they can to succeed. So, we'll send them to our blog that has well over 350 updated articles on it. When I say have their journey to start, it always starts with due diligence. It starts with
Mm.
them understanding what the needs of the animal are, what their budget is, and what they're willing to do. Once those three boxes are checked marked off, then it's the next step of how do I. That's essentially the step that we take as a business to set the clients up for as much success as we can while providing as much of a perceived value as we can, because the value isn't in just monetary. Again, the value also comes from, wow, I just created a work of art. Wow, I'm providing my animal the best care I possibly can. Wow, I am nurturing the human
Good.
animal bond. All of those things
Get
are
off.
very important with your decision making with starting this type, because it isn't for everybody. It really isn't. Some people don't want this. Some people don't want to use the little bugs. Some people would much rather use dirt, take the tank apart every 30 days and clean it. That is just what some
Yeah.
people want to do. And that may work for some type of critters. That may work for some type of keepers, right? But we're always going to push less intrusion, more automation, higher standard.
Sorry about that little blip. I was listening, and just making sure. I was like, "No one's come back. They haven't come back early, have they?"
The biggest thing I just like to tell people is, you know, I'm really grateful for where I am. I'm really grateful, but I didn't just get here because of me. It's everybody out there. It's all my staff. I've had staff members with me for 5 years. Like,
Mm.
more than half my staff have been tenured here for years and years. And all of us share this collective goal. And that collective goal is always do better,
Mm.
always grow, always be accountable. That's kind of the mantra we try to carry. And
Yeah.
if again, guys, I can take some credit for the quality of the products and X, Y, and Z. I'm not the one manufacturing them anymore. I'm not the one packaging the order anymore. I'm not the one handling emails anymore. That's everybody else. So,
Yeah.
I'm really proud to be part of this team that has allowed us to get where we are. But I just
Mm.
ask if anybody that's considering us or considering anybody else, just make sure you're doing your research and just make sure you understand what it is you're buying. Because it's just like I'm a fisherman. There's a lot of lures for people, not lures for fish. Okay. You can buy a $25 lure, it's not going to catch a damn fish. You can buy a $1 lure, it'll catch you 10 fish.
Mm.
Just like that, there are a lot of products out here and that that are just availability that will hurt your
Yeah.
reptiles,
Yeah.
that will kill your reptiles. That is just an item that you don't need. It's just a money grab, cash item, snake oil product. Um, and it's just one of those things like just make sure you understand what you're buying and what the need of it is. And if you don't need it, then don't buy it. And that is how we continue to
Yeah.
ensure that the community,
There's so many.
yes. And you can make the same argument for breeders with selling Nile monitors to little kids for in a 10-gallon tank for $50. It's that same thing. Don't be part of the
Crazy.
problem, be part of the solution. Donate to USARK, donate to Responsible Reptile Keeping, donate to the organizations that go against PETA that help control the narrative. Go against, make sure you support the people that are making the changes that continue the hobby, that better the hobby, that better the standard of care for all the animals. That's it. That's really all that we want. And again, I'm just happy to be here. I'm happy to be part of this community, and I'm
Mhm.
happy that I can say we're going into our eighth year in business, closing out our eighth year in business on Jan 1. So the fact that I'll be
Awesome.
going into 9 years is
It's probably a bit surreal. You're probably like, "Really?
yeah.
9 already?"
Yeah, I'm sorry, going into 8 years. So sorry, my brain had a brain fart there. Going into 8 years, we'll be closing our
Oh, my
7 year
brain. Yeah.
date. That's still a big deal. I told my wife and I
Yeah, for sure.
had our initial conversation. I said, if I don't get this business out of our house in 8 months, I'm out. We're done. There's no point in me
Mm.
having a business out of my freaking house. And I'm not going to make any money. And now I'm looking at, trying to take BioDue to IPO level type of business. And the pieces are starting to get there to pull the trigger. It's just there's a lot of back end infrastructure. There's a lot of back end that is on me that I have to just bite the bullet and do. So a lot of good stuff
Mm.
in the works. It's just a very slow pace. So,
Where can we find you online? Where can our listeners and viewers find you online?
if you are a retailer interested in selling my products in the United States, we have a wholesale website, biodudewholesale.com. It's closed to the public. But if you're a normal person like me, you can visit my website, biodude.com or thebiodude.com, whichever. You can order from us. We offer, I consider, very competitive shipping for what we do. And then we also have an Amazon store that is also everything, not everything, but our base items are on there. And then we also go to we do about 4 different trade shows, 6 different trade shows a year, depending. And then, of course, social media, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, hate Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. So, tons of fun. And again, and besides that, if you're local here in Houston, you can come to my point of sale Monday through Saturday. We have a showroom affixed to our store. Come get some
Mm.
inspiration, eaters, come see some of the animals set up, or just come
I was
look at
gonna
our
say
house
because 'cause you've
and
got some for
my pen. Yeah,
I just thought I just went,
and
yeah,
out the door.
that was quite good. If you tried to do it, you wouldn't be able to, I bet.
You're exactly right.
You've got animals for rehoming as well in your store, haven't you? Because I've seen on
We do.
your
So we
your
do
stu
sell all captive bred animals in our store. They all go through a 14-day quarantine period. They're all wormed. If it's snakes, they're tested for nido. If it's frogs, they're tested for chytrid. Um, Approximately 40 to 45% of what we sell is all produced in house. Everything else is purchased from people I trust. I don't really list the animals online. Like right now on Morph Market, forgot about Morph Market. We have a whole bunch of captive bred animals on Morph Market right now. We're shipping children's pythons, arbrettos pythons, viper geckos, skunk geckos, bunch of frogs, whole kit and caboodle. Feel free to check it out on there too.
No, don't eat my watch. No, that's my Gatorland band. I can't wait to visit there as well. I'm gonna get Savannah Bowen on the podcast as well. She said yes, so that's really cool.
Nice, awesome.
I look forward to meeting her. She's a badass. You gotta love a badass woman. Was there anything else? Are you happy with everything? And then I'll just do
Yeah,
closing.
yeah, dude. I really appreciate the opportunity. I hope that you got kind of what you were hoping to get from me, and
Yeah.
I appreciate everybody's support.
Josh, thank you so much. It's been I feel inspired. I genuinely
Oh,
feel inspired, and I'm sure a lot of other people do as well. That's it for today's episode. Be sure to check out Josh's channels for more amazing content and inspiration. And don't forget to subscribe to Reptile Rendezvous for more exciting guests and topics. So until next time, stay wild.